It's like being in the waiting room of a doctor's office with an especially good table of toys as a kid. You know, they have like good Legos that you've never seen, and a certain truck or a certain toy that you don't have, that maybe you've seen on TV, that when finally the appointment's over and it's time to go home, you're shattered. And you either just want to stay or you want to take this stuff with you, because you built the most beautiful thing out of the Legos here. That is like a little way of putting in different terms part of the parable that Jesus gives us today. He gives us this image of a rich man who has many good things, who gets more good things, who is like making room for more good things, and finally, actually, he reaches the point where he says, "Okay, that's enough," and that very night is when he dies. What's kind of surprising about this, if you look at the parable, what's the hidden cost? Or what are the sacrifices that this guy has made to get here? One is very obvious, the other ones we have to kind of infer. The man, if you look at the text and the amount of quotation marks, he ends up talking to himself about himself, talking to himself about himself. So like the layers of quotation marks in here, they build up very quickly. What it says is like he is not only so turned in on himself, but he's so alone. He has what he's been working for, but there is no one else. And it's sad to be alone, but it's worse actually because he does not even seem to notice. It's one thing to be alone and for it to hurt, to feel lonely. But I think it's a much, much worse thing, actually, to be alone where you should feel lonely and to be so numbed to it that you don't even notice. That's the poverty of this man. That's just like one form of this. Yes, he has had all these good things. He's finally reached the point where he says, now I will sit back and enjoy these things for many years. But it has come with a significant cost, so costly that he doesn't even notice. There's also, if we look at the first part of the gospel, where the man says, "Teacher, tell my brother to share the inheritance with me." The matter of justice actually in this, like whether or not the brother should share his inheritance, is a secondary importance. The point here, the problem is that this man throws aside his brother, throws aside his relationship with his brother to have his portion of the inheritance. This is like the cost that he's very willing to pay for these riches. If you apply that to the man in the parable, like what cost has he paid? Again, there's no one around him. Who has he? What relationships did he sacrifice, or people that he stepped on, or good, better things that he could have had to enjoy and did not? This line from the gospel that Jesus says, it comes as a warning. It might even come as a correction, but it's good news, where he says, "Guard against all greed, for though one may be rich, one's life does not consist of possessions." This is such a wonderful thing. This is where Jesus honors humanity and lifts up our dignity higher than we think it is, higher than even sometimes we want it to be. He says something about our identity, about who we are and what we are. One's life does not consist of possessions. What does it consist of then? Could it be that our lives consist of things that do not end, that we don't have to leave in the waiting room? Now, probably for most of us, we all have greed, for sure. Like that, with selfishness, with pride, like that's in all of us. But it takes different forms. So I just want to say this, in case we read this and say, well, I don't have any barns, so I don't know what this story is about. We don't necessarily have to have the same kind of greed as what's in the gospel. For you, it might not be riches, it might not be possessions, it might not be the bountiful harvest of the field and the barns to store it in. But we all have these things. And if you don't know what they are for you, then this is really something to look into. It could be, it could be that kind of success. It could also be influence or power or honor. It might not, like I said, be money, but it could be that other people like you. Like what are the things that you're willing to put everything into, sacrifice a lot of stuff, but ultimately will end up nowhere, but you have to leave behind. All that you worked for will fall empty. It might not be that people like you, and it might not be money, but it could still be, and this I say this because it's very common, it might just be work, like a sense of success, productivity, importance in your work. We're especially susceptible to this when our work is something like a church or a nonprofit, something like that, because then those things that are most important are easily neglected and easily rationalized and justified, because what I'm doing is so important and there's no one else to do it. Well, what about those other things? I was reading a book by one psychologist, and she said that she hypothesized that a great number of the problems in the world and the problems in our own lives would be solved if we who have families and then other things, which is like everybody, work or volunteering or whatever it is, those things that we invest ourselves in, if we gave 90% at work so that we had something when we came home, rather than giving 110% at work and being like way past empty when we come home. Do you see how that would change things so significantly? I don't think the point of this is do as little as possible as work or something like that, or be really unsuccessful at work. The point is that there are more important things. Again, what is that for you? Work or kind of superficial relationships or possessions or some sort of success or honor or pleasure or life of leisure or a sense of security even, or whatever kind of excess where we're willing to sacrifice all the other things to throw our family members, our brother under the bus for the inheritance, or tear down everything and build bigger barns so that finally we have what we need. One of the costs is that we will end up alone. When we come to these moments where we have to make a decision, there are helpful guides. So I just want to give you three questions that come from St. Ignatius of Loyola. His feast day was this week. He's the founder of the Jesuits. So he gave 3 questions to ask oneself when facing a significant decision. And significant decisions are relative, It can be, should I buy this, or should I commit to that? Or it could be a career thing, or it could be a move, or a situation with family. Should I say this or have this conversation, whatever it is. But when it comes to significant decisions, here's what St. Ignatius of Loyola gives as 3 guiding questions, and they're all around what we heard in the gospel today. The first one is, if I had someone who I loved, who I cared about their good, and they were in this situation, and they asked me for advice, what would I tell them to do? Because it doesn't always match up with what we would tell ourselves to do. It's a funny thing. We're always special cases. When we do this, sometimes we can recognize, actually what I was thinking for myself is really bad for me. And I wouldn't recommend that to anybody, but I think I can handle it. So that's the first question. If this was about somebody else who I loved, who I cared about what was good for them, what advice would I give them in this situation? The second question is, if I imagine myself on the last day of my life is over and I am close to death, and I look back over my life and my decisions, and I look at this moment, what will I think of what I decide? What will I wish I had done here? At the end of my life, looking over everything that I have done and my decisions, what will this look like from that perspective? When there's no more time and everything's over. What will I wish I had done here? The last question, actually on the other side of death, This third question is, if I imagine myself after I have died before the judgment seat of Jesus, and we are looking at my life, it's judgment day for me. What will I wish I had done now from that perspective? These three things have a wonderful way of burning through all the illusion, all the justification, rationalization, all the excuses we can make for ourselves, and exposing the real true desires that we have that maybe will not be satisfied, but that it cuts through anything that allows us to pretend there. Maybe I can have it all. No, no, we can't have it all. We can have everything. This is what the Lord promises us. We can have everything that our heart desires. We can have eternal happiness. We cannot have everything that we want all at the same time. And very often we have to choose between things. This is why it is such good news that Jesus says these words to us today. Take care to guard against all greed. For though one may be rich, one's life does not consist of possessions.